Hey, what's up, guys? Today we're going to go over the next five words 11 through 15 in your Unit 12 vocab, and we're going to talk about the last chapter of The Outsiders. No Outsiders discussion questions today since we had that short answer yesterday, and I'm going to be talking about the essay probably Thursday or Friday again, depending on which class you are. I think I said that yesterday. Um, no discussion questions today. So just do synonyms and antonyms for Unit 12. Make sure you get that done by the end of today. If you are missing any work from me, make sure you go back and do it. If you have a zero for something, go back and get that submitted. You might want to send me an email if I don't grade it for a few days. If you just submitted it, give me a couple days to look at it because I try to go back and catch anything that I've missed that people have resubmitted or submitted late. But if I miss it for like 3 or 4 days, send me an email so that I go back and find it, so that I can get your grade updated. Because some of you right now have some zeros for things that I think you either forgot to turn in or they didn't submit for whatever reason, and it's killing your grade. We need to fix that. Or if you just haven't done it, go back and do it. Get it turned in. I'll give you full credit because this online stuff, I know it's a pain. All right, so word 11 in the vocab is mellow. So someone that's mellow would be someone who's kind of calm, they're chill. You say someone's mellowed out if they're in a relaxed state. This can also be used to refer to like a fruit or a flavor of some food. Something that's mellow is sweet. It's something really tasty. Like you might think of like a really good juicy apple. Like if you go to Target and get like some really nice Honeycrisp apples or something, you might refer to them as being mellow in flavor. So it's something that's, again, it's sweet, it's soft, it's not overpowering, it's mellow, it's something that's pleasing. You might say the mellow music calmed me down after a hard day. It means the music was soothing, it was calming, or it mellowed me out. Okay, so that's using it as a verb to make something calm, to gentle them, things like that. Pretty easy word. So word 12 is nomadic. You guys probably know this from history, studying about nomad tribes and things. Nomadic is an adjective, means wandering from place to place. So like early tribes of humans were nomadic. They would travel around to different places. They were hunter-gatherers. You probably learned all that. They would follow herds of animals around. They would pick fruit from bushes and things, pick berries. They would hunt the animals. They were nomadic. As a noun, you would say they were nomads. And then later on we developed agriculture and that changed. But nomadic peoples traveled from place to place. Nomadic means traveling from place to place. Piecemeal, word 13. I might put an asterisk next to this one. People generally have trouble using this. It's an adjective or an adverb. It means to be done one piece at a time, gradually over time. So if you're making payments on a car, and you pay $300 a month for this car for 5 years, whatever, and I'm just spouting numbers, then you are paying for the car piecemeal, piece by piece, one at a time, versus paying the whole thing off at once. Would not be paying it piecemeal. If you would say they arrived at the party piecemeal, it would mean they arrived like person by person or in ones and twos, not a whole bunch of people at once getting to the party. So it just means a gradual accumulation of something rather than all at once. That's all it means. You use it that way. And again, you can use it as an adverb. You can use it as an adjective. You could say we came up with a piecemeal payment plan for our new car. That's using it as an adjective. It's saying our payment plan is one in which we pay piece by piece. You could say we arrived piecemeal to the party. That's using it as an adverb, saying we arrived one by one or in ones and twos. Pretty simple word to use if you know how to use it and what part of speech it belongs in. Word 14 is quest. This is a really simple word that you probably are pretty familiar with, I would assume. It can be used as a noun or a verb. So as a noun, it's like a quest is an adventure, a search, a journey that you would go on for something. So you might say we went on a quest to find an open store that had toilet paper because everyone for some reason bought a bunch of toilet paper for the coronavirus. That would be a noun, using it to go on a quest, noun. As a verb, you would say we quested in search of, I don't know, actual meat that isn't just sausages and cheap bacon, because apparently everybody's buying all the meat in the world too. I haven't had the toilet paper problem, but meat, yeah, it's kind of hard to find. But yeah, you could say we quested for whatever. Use it as a verb. Either way is fine. Easy word. I'm not going to spend too much time on it. Word 15, random. Also very easy. If you haven't noticed, most of this unit is pretty simple. I find that the 7th grade vocab is actually a lot easier than 6th grade on average. But random means something that's not planned. It's not set. It's just kind of by chance. Okay. So If I tell you to pick a number between 1 and 10, I'm assuming that your choice will be relatively random. If I pull up a random number generator on my computer and I type in a range of 1 to 100 and I hit enter and it pops out 73, that was random, okay? Random can also mean kind of spontaneous and out of the blue. So if I'm teaching a class and a kid jumps up out of their seat and yells something in French, that is random, right? It's unpredictable. It doesn't seem planned. It's just kind of spontaneous and out of nowhere. I'm not going to spend a whole lot of time telling you about the word random because, again, it's something I'm sure you're probably pretty familiar with. So we'll put the vocab away for now, talk about the last chapter, The Outsiders. In general, I hope you guys have enjoyed the book. I know some of you have given me some feedback and private messages and things saying that you did, which I'm glad of. I think it's a good book. Reading it again, there were some more things that I appreciated about it I didn't notice the first time. But it starts off with the hearing, which has been built up as this big kind of final climactic moment of the novel. We've been set to believe, this might be the end of Ponyboy getting to stay with Derry and Soda. This is kind of where they're going to have to pay for all the things that have happened in the book, as far as Johnny killing Bob and now Johnny and Dally being dead and all that. This is all gonna kind of come back to bite them, it seems, but it's kind of an anticlimax. Pony says it's not like I thought it would be. He said they didn't ask me anything about any of that. They just asked me if I liked living with Derry and Soda and asked me about school and all this stuff. And said it was pretty easy. There wasn't a full courtroom. It was just us, and then it was over. And nothing really happened. So again, it's kind of anticlimactic, which with all the action, all the climax we've had so far, it's kind of good that things are winding down for Pony, I guess. But then he says he started to have a lot of issues. He started to run into things. He started to forget stuff. He stopped eating very much. And he just he started having a really rough time at school. Said Derry would check his math and make sure he got that, but in English he started bombing. He makes the statement about himself. He says, "I don't talk good English," which isn't good English, but for most of the book he's not like that. It seems like it's almost on purpose there. For most of the book, Ponyboy's English is really good. He's told this whole story. He's got this really unique voice. He quotes poetry. This is a kid who says, I don't talk good English, and we were like, you're full of it. You've written this whole book, and you're obviously brilliant. So it's, again, that blind spot with himself where he doesn't see his own abilities, doesn't see his own talents, oftentimes doesn't see his own weaknesses. He's really observant with other people for the most part, but when it comes to himself, there's a lot of blindness. So his English teacher talks to him, and he says, he liked his English teacher, is a good guy who cared about him outside of school. And he tells him, if you write something really good for me, a theme was like a semester story type paper thing, like a personal essay kind of. We don't really call them that anymore. But if you watch any old movies, you might hear things called themes. I think A Christmas Story, Ralphie, I think his teacher calls what he has to write in that a theme. But tells him, if you do really well on this, you'll have a C for the semester. I will do that for you. He says, you're failing right now. Like, Ponyboy thought he had a D, but he's straight up failing. And Pony says, okay, I'll do my best. And he can't come up with anything to write about. He's struggling. And it goes into him sitting outside the parking lot of the grocery store waiting on Two-Bit and Steve, and says some socialists pull up, and apparently they think he's the one who killed Bob, or they accuse him of it at least. And it's three of them. They get out and they threaten him. He just busts off a bottle and starts walking towards them. And he says, I'm gonna split you up if you stay here. Like, get out of here. And he warns them off. And Two-Bit comes out and he's like, what is wrong with you? Like, this is not Ponyboy. He tells him, you don't need to be like Dally and like those others. And he's concerned, as a lot of them are. They're thinking Ponyboy's seen so much, he's been through so much, this is gonna change him. His grades are dropping, his behavior's different. And he's like, why is Two-Bit talking to me this way? What is wrong with him? All the rest of them are like this. And he doesn't see that he's not like the rest of them. Same way Derry's not. And there isn't necessarily, as we've seen, to see a rest of them. Like, they're all individuals. They're all their own person. The closest thing I could say is he's not like Dally, who is kind of the exemplary greaser, we said. And then Two-Bit's like, Pony, what are you doing? And Ponyboy's down picking up the glass from the bottle he broke, and he takes it and he puts it in the trash can. Two-Bit's like, okay, yeah, that's Ponyboy. He won't litter. He won't even leave broken glass lying around, even though he just threatened to cut someone up. Weird kid. A lot of contrasts, which any human being, if you ever read any Walt Whitman, his in the future, probably in high school, maybe in college, his poem, The Leaves of Grass, he says, I contain multitudes, which means in each person, there are a lot of different kind of conflicting ideas and personalities. We're not the same day to day, moment to moment with different groups of people we hang out with. We code switch. We're one person at home, we're another person at school, we're another person at church, so on and so forth. And that's just human nature. And we try to be as consistent as we can, but it's hard. And Ponyboy's like this. He changes back and forth depending on who he's around, depending on what he's doing. Like I said, goes from threatening someone with a broken bottle to picking up the glass and throwing it in the trash can. So he gets home and he has this other argument with Derry. Derry's fussing at him about school, and Ponyboy says, "What's it matter? Soda's fine." He dropped out, and Derry's like, "You're not dropping out," because again, we know that Derry expects so much of Pony. He sees in Pony that intelligence that Derry obviously has himself that he didn't get to use. And he's saying, Ponyboy, you were going to make something of yourself. You're not going to be stuck, carrying bundles of roofing and wondering what might have been and being envious of your former classmates who got to go to college. Like, you're not going to be me. And they get into it, and then Soda runs away. And he's really upset by this. He won't sit through it anymore. And this is the first time we see Soda show some real firm emotion for himself. He's been emotional about Ponyboy and Johnny and Dally and all those, but this is the first time he really kind of stands up for himself, and it's a unique moment for him. It's a kind of really last second 11th hour character development. And Derry tells him, it's the letter he wrote Sandy, it's returned unopened. So the whole subplot with Sandy, I haven't talked much about this. It's a little bit not necessarily dark, but it's a little adult for a 7th grade book, which parts of this novel are, so that's fair. But I will explain what's going on here. So Soda had this girlfriend, Sandy, we talked about. Ponyboy likes her, all of them like her. Apparently she comes across as a really good girl. Her parents tell Sandy and Soda at one point basically that they're going to have to get married if they keep carrying on. The implication is that Sandy was pregnant. And it turns out that when he wrote the letter, he tried to go see her at Florida and all those sorts of things. Derry tells him when Sandy went to Florida, it wasn't Soda, meaning that Soda wasn't actually the father. And you can do with that what you will. I'm not going to go into it any more in depth than that. But Soda's had a really difficult time, and all this things have been going on in the background. This is his life, and his life, this girl that he felt like he was in love with, and all this has been ruined for him. Remember, he's the one who's dropped out, who doesn't really have a future. He cared so much about this horse, and he lost it. Soda's kind of the silent sufferer of the whole book. And in my experience, a lot of people really like Soda and really sympathize with him, and I think we should. I think he's one of the best individual people in the book, if not the best, because he's very selfless. All he cares about is other people. He may not be brilliant, like Ponyboy is, but he puts others before himself pretty universally. And this is the first moment where he kind of explodes and stands up for himself. And even then it's saying, I hate to see you guys fight. Even then he's worried about them and not himself. He's a very good person, in my opinion. And so they chase him down, they catch him, and they end up talking about it, and it really gets to Derry and Pony both. They recognize what they've been doing to Soda. He says, the tug of war thing, like, you're pulling me apart. They finally realize it. It seems like they're going to try to be better with him. He finally says, like, Derry, you yell at him too much. Ponyboy, you're too much of a pain. You need to look and see that, he's looking out for you. You wouldn't be happy being me. You wouldn't be happy being Derry. You need to be you. And Ponyboy also recognizes for the first time, I've been looking at Derry like he's this older, mature person, like a parent. Derry's 20. I'm 26. I'm still a kid. Derry's definitely still a kid. Okay, this is college age. If you guys know anybody who's college age, you may have siblings who are college age. People at 20 are usually idiots. Okay, probably dumber than middle schoolers in a lot of ways, because they think they're grown when they're very much not. And yeah, legally they are, but I wouldn't want a 20-year-old making decisions for me. I'm surprised that I made it past 20. So Derry's had a lot of responsibility thrust on him, and he's doing the best he can with it. And I think he's done a really good job with what he's been given. So Ponyboy, again, he's having to realize these things about Derry. He's having to see through those blind spots. And so it gets back and it says, Ponyboy didn't want to do his homework. He just wanted to read something. It said he read every book in the house a bunch of times. He's a huge reader. Again, this speaks to his intelligence. Most people who read a lot are pretty intelligent. Says he picked up Gone with the Wind and looked at it for a long time. This is, again, that intertextuality. And I'm going to have a video, probably the last video of this week, that's going to talk specifically about intertextuality in this novel. I'm going to get into the small reference to Jack London, talk about Nothing Gold Can Stay, talk about Gone with the Wind, and really kind of go through and examine those different aspects and how they play into this book, because I think they're really important. And that may give you a hint as to what our essay is going to be about. So he talks about, the thing with 2-Bit and how he was sad about the switchblade. Then he gets into the note that Johnny read him, and I won't read the whole thing because I'm running over on time already. But basically he explains his feelings about Nothing Gold Can Stay, and I think it's a pretty good interpretation of it. It's what most of you got on that discussion question. He's talking about how nothing good, nothing like being a kid, nothing like that innocence, that brilliance of a sunset can remain forever. Things are always going to fade away. Nothing in this life is eternal. That's, to me, what Frost is saying as well. I think it's a pretty simple poem on as far as meaning, and a lot of Frost stuff is. It doesn't mean it's not good. I like Frost a lot, and I know some of you guys do too. So he says, when you're a kid, you're gold. And then you grow up and things change and you harden. And he says, don't do that. Don't become like that. He says it was worth it for me saving those kids. He says I'm ready to die. I did something worthwhile. Their parents came to see me, and I know now that what I did was worth it. He said, like the way you look at sunsets and stuff, like that's gold. You need to stay that way. He said, you can stay that way. Don't be like Dally. Don't be like the others. He said, but tell Dally about it. Tell Dally. And that's the saddest part of the book to me. When in Johnny's book, or in Johnny's letter, we remember how much he admired Dally and looked up to him and how they loved one another like brothers. And he's saying, tell Dally to look at a sunset. Tell Dally that, it was worth it to save those kids. He says, tell Dally so many times in this little note because he had no way of knowing what was going to happen. And Ponyboy's having to read this with the knowledge that Dally is dead by his own choice, and that he's never going to get the chance to hear any of this. And he says afterward, would Dally have listened? Probably not. And he's right. I don't think Dally would have listened. Maybe it would have touched him in some way, but I don't think it would have changed him. So it's a pretty sad circumstance. And then after all this, something clicks for Ponyboy after reading this note, and he calls his English teacher. He says, hey, how long can my theme be? He says, at least 5 pages. He says, can it be longer? He's like, sure. And of course, it ends up being around 180 pages. Because Ponyboy says, he thought about Bob and Dally and Johnny. He says, one week had taken all 3 of them, and I decided I could tell, and that, keep in mind, this book took place over the course of 1 week. He says, and I decided I could tell people, beginning with my English teacher. I wondered for a long time how to start that theme, how to start writing about something that was important to me. And I finally began like this. When I stepped out into the bright sunlight from the darkness of the movie house, I had only 2 things on my mind, Paul Newman and a ride home. Famous opening lines. She ends with them too. The cyclical nature of this book is something else that I'll try to talk about in a video later this week. I think it's important and interesting. I think there's a lot of depth there that we can find. But anyway, get synonyms and antonyms done today. Hope you enjoyed the book. If you haven't finished reading it, go back and look through it. We are going to do a test on it online next week. And we are going to start our essay over the weekend. All right, see you guys.